Hello, welcome back to the Saga of the Clone Saga, aka the Clone Zone. This is the weekly podcast by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. in which we read through the entirety of the infamous 1990s Spider-Man Clone Saga, and now we're doing other stuff that also has clones in it. My name is Matt.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Vincent, and our sponsor today is Wismer's Whispers, or the Wismer Whispers. It is a new YouTube channel from fellow student of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tina. And on the channel, she unboxes and shows off and organizes Pokemon cards, but with an ASMR angle. That's the ultimate crossover. ASMR meets Pokemon card unboxing. So if either or both of those interest you, go check that out.
I'm sure that Venn diagram of interest has a really big overlap. And I'm sure the people watching our show as well, all three of you would also enjoy that channel. So definitely pop over there.
Yep, check it out. I will try and link it in the description of this video. Also, you can go to the Students of S.H.I.E.L.D. channel, and it is on the sidebar, in addition to our buddy, founder of the club, Dan McNamara, and his channel, Mandak. And he has been on this show about 70 episodes ago, and so maybe Tina should be on this show sometime soon.
That would be amazing.
And she's only got a few more episodes.
Zero that you can catch Dan on.
Yep. So today we're talking about some Spider-Verse tie-ins, which are clone-related. But first, I'll kick it to Matt in a second.
Okay.
Everyone knows by now, Matt, overall, way more of a Spider-Man fan than myself, Mike, definitely Billy, and other hosts, even every other host that has been on this show. And if I'm right, Matt can confirm, he was in fact following along with Dan Slott's run around this time and bought Spider-Verse on a monthly basis in issues. So I'm going to kick it to Matt and talk about this era of Spider-Man, kind of sort of in general, if he wants to, and then specifically Spider-Verse, what he thought at the time, what he thinks now, and just whatever the hell comes out of his mouth, as Mike and I kind of handled that on our main episode.
Okay. So yeah, I was reading Amazing Spider-Man at the time, and I bought every issue of Spider-Verse. I didn't buy all the tie-ins, although I did pick up Spider-Verse Team Up. So this first issue we're going to talk about today, I own it. I am not a huge fan of this era of Slott Spider-Man. Spider-Verse is the high point, but that's not really saying a whole lot. It's a fun little distraction. It's cool to see some other Spider-Men hanging out, but ultimately it's a dumb story with dumb villains, and set a precedent that I'm not a big fan of, which is all these stories about Spider-Man hopping dimensions and whatever, which is just not, it's not the Spider-Man stories that I want to be reading. I don't know. That's not, you don't see Stanley, Steve Ditko, they never penned a story about Spider-Man going to another dimension. That's not what Spider-Man is, you know?
Though he didn't he fight aliens in like the third or fourth issue?
He did fight aliens, which is a little, well, no, because they weren't aliens at all, were they?
No, I think they are. Maybe it was revealed later. I forget the details.
Regardless, he never hopped dimensions.
Well, what I said about Spider-Verse was that it's what, 9 issues? It's like what, 7 issues, and 5 out of the 7 issues, it's just people standing around and talking.
Oh yeah, nothing happens in it. They go to one place and get destroyed, and so they run somewhere else, and they talk for a while, and then the Morlons show up, and the Morlons kill them, and they go somewhere else, and they talk some more, so the Morlons show up again, and or Silk gets everyone killed.
Yep, it's terrible.
It's not good.
Yeah, in our episode, we also got the chance to talk about Silk a little bit, and even I mean, I guess I associated some of these scenes with her introduction, which is earlier in the series, but she has some pretty serious cringe with Peter Parker within Spider-Verse itself.
That
Oh, for
ending
sure.
panel with her and with Spider-Man and Silk is so bad.
The whole
Yeah.
opening with Spider-Man and Silk is disgusting.
And one of our other major takeaways was that the way Peter interacts with Spider-Gwen is really cringy as well.
Yes. They don't interact too much, really, do they?
Not
It's like 3 times, and every single time it's Peter trying to make sure that she's not in the fight / not in danger, and he's like in the
Mhm.
middle of the fight, it's like someone has to protect Spider-Gwen, and it's like, no.
Yeah, he's super, I don't know, kind of condescending to her in a way that is not fun to read.
Yeah, and what we said
Um,
about that was that there's no reason for that, considering that all of these people have survived already multiple attacks from the stupid, I don't know, can't remember what they're called anymore. So clearly she can hold her own.
Morlun. They're called the Morlun.
I'm trying to remember the name of the family.
The Inheritor.
Yeah, who cares?
Also, I have to issue a correction from at some point last episode, and also I'll bring it up because I want to see if Matt has input on this.
Okay.
Last episode, I realized, but then got it wrong. I said that Spider Verse is basically an overblown interdimensional Spider Island, but I was mixed up, and I meant to say Grim Hunt. So there's the correction, and then I'll lay it out again. When you really think about it, Spider Verse is just an interdimensional, overblown version of Grim Hunt, and it's further interesting because Grim Hunt, of course, was not Slot, unlike Spider Island, which I goofed up. But you have this family of villains hunting down and trying to kill this group of spiders. And instead of just the 616 people and the Kravenoffs, you have interdimensional, every spider powered character versus the Inheritors.
And actually, the similarities go a little farther than that in the way that both of these families are led by a character that should be dead and consists of a bunch of other characters that are totally boring and uninteresting. So
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of like interdimensional Grim Hunt.
Yeah, and those central villain characters referencing back far, far greater stories. I mean, in the case of Grim Hunt, Craven's Lifeline. In the case of this, the JMS stuff, which and that we could argue for days on whether that was even good, but
Right.
I'd argue at least was executed better than this.
And I don't want to spend too much time talking about Spider-Verse proper because we have a whole episode on it. But I do want to mention I do want to bring up the whole thing about Uncle Ben and
We had fun with that last episode.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's
way
where Pete is kind of worthless.
The way Otto inspires him to be Spider-Man again, I hate it so much.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Boy,
we actually
you
like
don't.
that because
Why?
here's actually a hit to the whole book because Otto's right the entire time.
In that instance, Otto is correct, and I think it's genius because it's like I don't know. I like slightly forget what I said, and also don't want to entirely retread it. But
Sure.
I think it's a great little extra bow / insert for the Superior story, where it's like, yeah, Otto lost in the end, but just the littlest victory, and it's just and our interpretation was that it's just a dumb moment in general with Pete trying to hype up Uncle Ben because it's like ultimately
it's not your Uncle Ben.
This old dude is no different from the 100 other spider characters that you have in your army. And in fact, he is an old dude who hasn't used his powers in forever. And
Sure.
you're wasting like 5 minutes to try and give him a pep talk.
Yeah,
everything.
Because at that point, the end game's already going down. Like you're just stalling at that point.
Yeah, and they're chasing after like the three Trinity. If I remember it right, it is on the clock because the three Trinity characters. I mean, I don't think they know that Kane is quote unquote dead yet, but the other two I think are already on Lumerald, And so, this little baby and Silk, I think, I may be totally wrong, but I think they're like,
Oh yeah, they're taken to that point.
This little baby and Benty Parker are on Loom World.
yeah. Okay, so today we're talking tie-ins. This series had a lot of tie-ins. There's a series called Spider-Verse Team Up, which is team up stuff. There's a series called Spider-Verse, which is totally confusing, the titling of that. And I don't entirely know what the point of Spider-Verse was.
Spider-Verse was bigger and cost more dollars.
Okay, so
What was in it?
More Spider-Verse team up.
So is it
okay? So oh my god,
what?
Is it like the same concept of Spider-Verse team up?
Yeah.
Okay, that's dumb.
But it was
that's infuriating.
But it was extra size and cost like $6 or something.
And
there's
then
also, I think, only 2 issues of it, right?
2 or 3.
Yeah.
I think it's
also bought those.
And then there is Spider-Woman tie-in, which launches alongside this event. And I guess that slightly follows her team when she splits off during the main story. And it's drawn by Greg Land, which is great.
That's awesome.
It's written by, what was it, Dennis Hopeless, who wrote that series?
Yeah.
Dennis Hopeless. And the first art,
the costume and the baby.
That's the thing, is that happens right after Spider-Verse, right after the tie-in arc. She gets a costume redesign, new artist who's actually good, but then the baby doesn't come until after Secret Wars. Well, the pregnancy.
What happened to that baby? Okay. Does Death still have that baby? What happened to Death?
Yeah, still has it.
She's still around. I mean, that book got canceled or ended, whatever. But she's shown up in, I think, like the Jessica Jones stuff that's been going on and something else. I don't know if she's in Spider-Geddon at all. And then Spider-Man 2099 ties into Spider-Verse as well. And I believe that series had already been launched before this because that spun out of Superior and a 2099 related arc.
Yeah.
And that 2099 book lasted, combined with post-Secret Wars and everything, lasted like a ridiculous amount of issues, and I really don't know what happened in it at all. Every once in a while I'll hear people, especially when it was coming out, very positive about Will Sliney's art and stuff like that, but I don't care. And the other tie-in is Scarlet Spiders, and we're going to cover all of Scarlet Spiders on this show. But first, let's talk about half of Spider-Verse Team Up #1.
I just want to say right at the beginning, I hate the Marvel Now trade dress. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
What about it? You mean just like the coverage that it takes up on the issue or something?
Yeah, I just don't like how much it takes up and like how much no space is used on it.
Yeah. Right. It's glaring and boring. It does not need to be there.
Yeah, generally I hate these kinds of trade dress where it just wastes page on the covers. Obviously, Civil War.
I think the new DC one works out really, really well, where you get the logo of the character and then just like the names up in the bottom corner, and like the DC. I like that.
Yeah, like Civil War is definitely the worst case ever. And the beginning of the DC Rebirth era was a little annoying, but it wasn't terrible.
The banners were a little annoying. The banner they're rocking now is great.
Is Civil War worse than the Ultimate Universe?
Oh, yeah. But that's not, I mean, that is the trade dress. But
that's because it's half the page.
It's a slightly different kind of way.
And it's really ugly.
Yeah, all the Ultimate covers.
The Ultimate covers are something that I think worked for the early 2000s because it was so statically different, where like, so you would separate, they had to separate the line, but like looking back on it, that giant blocked logo that says Ultimate on it just has not aged well at all.
No.
Yeah, well, and like the strips on the sides of the covers and shit.
To truly give an idea of just bad design, look at the trade dress for Ultimate Marvel team up, it is one of the grossest early 2000s things you can see.
So Spider-Verse team up number one, the half of the, I think both stories, but the one we're reading, written by Christos Gage, who we've talked about, and drawn by Dave Williams, who I didn't feel like really looking up.
And just like Breath of Spider-Verse, nothing really happens in this.
Yeah. So this focuses on Ben Reilly of Earth 94, which I'm just now connecting. I'm assuming it's called Earth 94 because the Clone Saga, the 90s Clone Saga started in 1994. He's fighting off the vulture, but then it ends up a flock of vultures. He makes a flock of seagulls reference.
Yeah, well, we're also going to get a Deadwood reference and then a John from Cincinnati reference later. So
yeah, but those I have comments on. This is just a reference. So then two spider characters show up, and it's the guy in the vest, that is Ezekiel, right?
Yeah, it's Ezekiel.
Yes.
I've already forgotten some of the Spider-Verse crap.
You don't have to remember it. I remember too. I wish I could forget more of it.
Ezekiel and Spider-Ham show up. They beat up the vultures, and then they lose, and then they win again, and then they take them away. And that's basically it. I was really hoping this was actually just... The thing is, like, and before Spider-Verse, there were the tie-ins Edge of Spider-Verse, and that's where you get the first appearance of Gwen and stuff like that. And those don't really actually tie into Spider-Verse, right?
No, they end with... Most of them end with like a spider character going, "Ooh, I can recruit this person." But for the most part, they're just like, they're almost completely unrelated.
Yeah, they're just like spotlight pilot kind of things.
Yeah.
And that's what I was really hoping this story was going to be. I was really hoping we were going to get like 10 pages spotlighting this version of Ben Reilly that survived past the Clone Saga.
And like some of them kind of are. Like the second part of this issue is about a six-armed Spider-Man, which is sort of what you're talking about, but not quite.
But some overall other comments I had, the art here, and it's a tie-in to an event, so I'm not going to fault it a ton. It's probably on scheduling and stuff like that. But the art here is pretty rough in a lot of it. Like multiple
wide shots with character sizes.
Yeah, multiple panels. They lack the detail of the lines on the spider suits, and even like medium shots where they should totally be there. It's not even like always on far away shots.
Now, is that done to mimic the way the books looked in the 90s? Yes or no?
No, it's just not caring about. It's just being fast or not caring.
All right. I tried to give the man out, but all right.
I wish they were putting that much on this book.
I'm just saying, and I could flip through the book and take a lot of time to verify this, but I'm pretty certain when Todd McFarlane was drawing the book, you hardly ever got a wide shot with the lines not drawn in.
That's true.
I feel like Todd McFarlane, those lines are on every single panel, but I'm probably totally wrong.
I mean, the dream is just to have Todd come on the show and talk about lines on Spider-Man suits.
That's right. I mean, can you really hold whoever this is, I forgot his name already, can you really hold Dave Williams to the same level as the Todd father?
Yeah. But
I hold everyone to the same level as the Todd father.
Yeah, you both can and can't. That is ultimately the peak of Spider-Man. So
No, but okay.
We get some very quick reference to the Clone Saga in this. Spider Carnage, that arc is mentioned, and I really wish there was a footnote here to like some 1994 crossover arc in the Clone Saga.
Would have been great.
There's reference to how the Peter Parker in this world is depowered, so the spiders are not going to go track him down. So he can just ignore all this, and he survives then past all this Spider-Verse. But he may have died due to Secret Wars and the incursions. I don't know, which are also kind of happening at this exact same time as we saw referenced. That was referenced in Spider-Verse, like toward the very end, and we thought that was weird as well.
Yeah.
And
well,
then,
nothing makes sense. Nothing matters. So.
And then this story ends as they get to the safe house world with protected by Cosmic Spider-Man. Spider-Ham and Ezekiel show us the weird interpretation of Ben Reilly, which is going to get carried on through these stories. And it's that he's way more optimistic and has like a positive attitude compared to standard Peter Parker Spider-Man, and even compared to all of these other Spider characters that are in this, and that's going to help them because he's more gung-ho and less inhibited, but it's also probably going to lead to his death. Apparently, also, like so many other Ben Reillys in the multiverse, which is kind of fucked up. And obviously, we know from the main story that he does die. And I don't know how I feel about this weird, forced angle on Ben Reilly.
Well, I mean, it doesn't hold up one way or the other. If you look back to the 90s Clone Saga, Ben started depressed. I guess he eventually found some form of optimism, but I would never say he was any more optimistic than Pete, right? And then looking forward at Clone Conspiracy, the whole point of that, spoiler alert, is that Ben's not optimistic, and that's why he broke, right? So this interpretation just doesn't work.
What I don't understand is the amount of times they try to say that Ben is written as jokey / he's always making jokes, because that was never the case ever.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, they're trying to, I guess, slightly differentiate him even more from Peter in this, but they also don't have enough page space to actually do the character work. But I don't know, if you retroactively really forced it, I could kind of see this where it's the 90s was fucked up, but also within that status quo, once he got over the clone angst, I would say maybe you could say, as on average, Ben was a little more peppier than Peter. I mean, the beginning of the Clone Saga, Pete's obviously in his whole spider thing when he initially meets Ben. And then just artistically, in my head, I was forcing it. I'm okay, at the very end, the artist that I associate with Ben Reilly the most, even though he only did 4 issues that we read, is maybe Mike Wieringo. And then force that as there's a more optimistic, more positive kind of vibes. And then ultimately, the 90s was a whole kind of dark and depressing and over the top. But to a certain extent, you can argue that the 2000s and 2010s have kind of not really reversed that direction, where in certain ways we have just as many or more darker stories. So I don't. It doesn't matter.
I mean, probably more. They had a whole era called Dark Reign.
Yeah. Now let's talk about Scarlet Spider. This is a 3-issue series. It's written by Mike Costa. And Mike Costa, I would say his signature comic book is G.I. Joe Cobra, which was a little more darker, realistic take on the G.I. Joe franchise at IDW. He also did a bunch of Transformers work for them. I think he did pretty much the whole ongoing Transformers title at IDW before Last Stand of the Wreckers. But IDW Transformers is just a mess that I don't care about. But other than that, those are both licensed IDW stuff. I would say Costa's kind of failed to launch on a few attempts at the big 2. His first major thing was during the New 52. He got one of the 52 titles, and it was Blackhawks. But it was this modernized, techie version of the Blackhawks, and it got canceled in 6 issues. And then he does this, and right after this, after Secret Wars, they basically just recycle the Spider-Verse concept, and that's what we complained about. He got the title Web Warriors. which lasted twice as long as Blackhawks, but still not a prestigious run. And then try again. He got Venom, right as Marvel wanted Flash Thompson out of the Venom suit, but they didn't want Eddie Brock back yet.
Oh no.
Wanted whatever his name is. I think it's Lee Pace or something.
Lee Pace, yeah. Wait.
I get his name. I get his name mixed up with whoever Toxin was.
Wait, no, Lee Pace. Lee Pace is an actor. What?
Yeah, Lee Pace plays Ronan.
He plays Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right, I feel like it's something Pace.
I thought it was.
Right?
No, Lee Majors played the Bionic Man in the 70s.
Yes, because I knew you had a joke because Matt wasn't going to get it.
No, I didn't get it.
Well, the first 5 issues of that Venom series is a character, and no one liked it. And so then they brought back Eddie Brock, and maybe it was intended the entire time. And it was real convenient because the 25th anniversary, so they renumbered it, Venom 150. And Mike Costa kind of stuck around on that for a bit. And I don't think anyone was raving about it, but it at least will maintain some relevance because it tied into Venom Inc., which was part of Dan Slott's run, and it tied into Poison X, which was a crossover with Cullen Bunn's X-Men Blue. And,
okay, real quick, I found out his name, and it's Lee Price.
Okay, Lee Price. Oh, Lee Pace, Lee Price, very close.
Yeah.
And Costa, it's probably all done at this point, but he was kind of limping along doing some Venom spinoffs after the Donny Cates run started. I think he did the Venom, the Vietnam spinoff.
Man, poor guy.
But on the other hand, Mike Costa, he's a writer and producer on Lucifer, and probably has some other TV stuff on the docket, so he's probably fine. And while I was checking some of his credits, I found there's a note on his Wikipedia page that at the 2006 Berlin Film Festival, he sucker punched Harmony Korine, the film director of Kids and Spring Breakers. But Harmony Korine did not press charges, so it was not a big deal.
I love it.
So that's enough about Mike Costa. A little bit more.
Let's get Mike Costa on the show. We'll ask him about that.
And
ask him about G.I. Joe the entire time.
I think that works too.
The art in this series is by Paco Diaz, and again, not super impressive, as you would expect from these tie-ins. The first issue's focus of narration is on Jessica. It references her ultimate stint. And I realized as I was reading this, and we don't get this later on, is that from this and Spider-Verse, we never get the moment where Ben questions. I don't think we get the moment where Ben questions, oh, Kane looks totally normal now and also is a good guy.
Yep, no, we never get it.
Nope, doesn't happen.
And, we saw him plucked right from his universe, so that should have been a thing if they cared about the actual characters coming into this.
No, they just care about the costumes.
Yeah, I feel like the only character outside of Peter, Otto, and Silk that gets any real love is probably Mayday.
Yeah, I think so.
And
Leo Pardon.
Yeah. I was kind of underwhelmed by that as well.
Leo Pardon, the best part of the entire series.
Yeah, but I feel like they didn't go hard enough on the one or two crazy splash pages. When those actually came, I'm shrug.
Yeah.
And then in the first instance, he shows up, it's a big deal, and then he gets totally fucked. He gets
destroyed
off and deactivated.
Yeah, because he's just there for the splash page. That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
It's a bad book. Okay, let's talk about Scarlet Spiders.
Also a bad book.
Yeah.
So these three clones, they're running around on Loom World or whatever to try and figure out the clone situation because the inheritors can clone their bodies. In this issue, Ben Reilly makes a reference to Silvermane's head, which I guess technically Silvermane has been a cyborg for years and years and years, but the way he references it, it definitely feels like it's Silvermane as in the Superior Foes kind of version, which Superior Foes has happened at this point, but I guess this is hinting, and we'll get to more of this later, that Superior Foes and that continuity for Silvermane also happens in this Ben Reilly's timeline.
Which I'm okay with. There's literally no reason to, but we keep Superior Foes to this show.
Yeah.
Because I love that book.
And then he also makes reference to creating a stealth suit like the one that Kane wears. And so maybe Ben Reilly was also involved with Horizon Labs.
Maybe. My favorite part of this first issue is the egregious coloring error after Ben gets hit by Iron Man. On his upper shoulder, there's parts of it that aren't colored.
What?
It's black and white.
I did not even notice that.
Yeah, so they start a big fight, and then Iron Man shows up, and he's a bootlicker. And having Tony Stark on Loom World wear his Marvel Now armor with the black and gold is very convenient and lazy, in my opinion. He should, in my opinion, he should be wearing like the most default Iron Man costume or something that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
It's okay. Too convenient that he's wearing the one that he currently wears in the main continuity.
Right.
That's like shitty, like that's poor thinking through of how like the alternate timelines should work and everything.
Yeah.
And within the narration of this book, there are Chaucer references. And later on, in one of the later issues, there's references to Kane reading poetry with like a specific poet reference. And it just came off like awkward and forced to me. I don't really like Costa's writing in this.
I mean, to be fair though, if any Spider-Person reads poetry, it's definitely Kane.
I guess. Even that I'm back and forth on.
I think the narration boxes in these issues are so bad.
Yeah, they get, especially the Kane. So the second issue focuses on Kane's perspective, and that is like it's overly purple in certain points, and it's like something that would be like captions from the 80s.
Yeah, I found myself skimming and sometimes skipping caption blocks because I just didn't care and it didn't add anything, and they're bad.
What did you like about fascist Johnny Storm?
Oh, I liked.
Was it his giant metal codpiece?
What?
Was it his giant metal codpiece?
Well, that is probably the best part of his appearance, I guess.
So here's the other thing, and this is more like peeking into the Earth 94 timeline, which we don't get full explanations for. Ben sees Tony Stark as a friend, but from our perspective,
they only met once, and it was Crossing Tony, who was a teenager and was trying to rape his secretary.
Yes. So from our perspective, that's very strange. But I guess we are to assume that Tony Stark got fixed post Heroes Return in that universe as well.
We can't assume that, but obviously the truth is no one actually cares about the characters, and they just put Ben in because he's Ben Reilly.
No, they put the costume in. They don't. Right. There's no characters in these books. It's just costumes.
It's all costumes. So Spider-Ham is kind of a character. He said some funny stuff.
He just won an Oscar.
He just won an Oscar.
So they beat up
Tony Stark.
What?
If you think about it, this book just won an Oscar. Spider-Verse just won an Oscar. Yes. That movie wouldn't have happened. The movie would never have happened wasn't for this book. It's an adaptation.
I guess.
I'm now just imagining it of getting nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, and I was going to lose my fucking mind.
That would have been terrible.
That'd be amazing.
So they beat up Tony Stark. Ben puts on his armor, and then let's get into the second issue. It's got a kind of cool cover by David Nakayama. If I recall correctly, the first cover is kind of generic, but the second and third cover are really cool, more stylized. And second issue, they beat up Johnny Storm. They find the clone tubes, and we learn. I guess it's just. I mean, it's assumed that Ben Reilly, his timeline is alongside all the other timelines, so he should be up to date, like 2013 or whenever this came out. But we know that his timeline at least got to 2007 when John from Cincinnati ran on HBO.
And Deadwood.
But the thing is, since he's from an alternate timeline, in his universe, the fact that he references it, maybe John from Cincinnati ran more than one season.
Oh, you're probably right.
The narration in the second issue focuses on Kane, and like we said, it's kind of over the top and annoying. They come into a room of experimented spiders, and it turns out that Gen X can't figure out how to clone spiders because he goes on and on about how true civilization, you have to do farming, and so the inheritors, if they could just make their own spiders, that would be very convenient. And he can't figure it out, despite the fact that he's bullying around Miles Warren all the time, and we get a pointless scene of him bullying Miles Warren. Otherwise, not much happens in issue 2.
No. Not much happens to this at all.
Well, yeah. Issue 3, narration focuses on Ben, and we get some weird insert flashbacks, which includes a Dying Wish scene where Otto is dead and did not accomplish the mind transfer, which I think is pretty funny. Unless it's a super twist, and this version of Ben Reilly is actually a superior Spider-Man from Earth 94.
I hate it.
So Kane swats Gen X around and then murders him, but near infinite clone bodies. And we get more Ben flashbacks. And this is, again, like this characterization. It's not like a first person caption, it's third person. But this like angle that they're forcing on Ben is totally fucked up, where the narration explains that Pete was always the one to fuck up, including Uncle Ben, Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy, losing his powers and passing on the mantle. But Ben, on the other hand, everything goes right for him. And we see that he stops Thanos with the Avengers. And that's not referencing something specific, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure Infinity Gauntlet happens before the entire Clone Saga.
It does.
And also, Ben saved Marla Jameson from Alistair Smythe. And eventually, the Daily Bugle proclaims him as a hero.
And not only that, a zombie Doc Ock came back, and he fought him.
Yeah, with like the Hulk in the background or something.
Yeah.
That was a weird panel. But I don't know if that could have been before Dying Wish. Who knows? But
I like the one where Electro's running for mayor.
Or something. There's a weird Electro sign.
It says Electro we trust, so I'm assuming he's running for mayor.
Yeah. And so they come to their solution. Ben suicide bombs the building. And I guess that stops the cloning process.
Why not?
Sure.
And because right before that happens, Gen X explicitly is like, hey, I have these cloning facilities and these clone tubes everywhere on the planet. And it's supposed to make the heroes like, oh shit, how are we going to do this? But it turns out this is the central one, so all they actually have to do is destroy this one.
No, this one is how they get their consciousness from other realities when they die. So the clone, they can still make more clones. They're just different consciousnesses.
So, I mean, I guess it doesn't. It's not like Gen X should. It's not like you'd expect Gen X to say, "Oh yeah, if you blow this up, you will win." But why would Gen X like? It's kind of a waste of time saying, "Oh, I have these all over the world." You're wasting your time.
Yeah, because that literally means nothing.
It's just a dumb bluff, which doesn't whatever. But Ben dies in the explosion. Kane bounces, and I think Jess is stranded here. I think that's how we picked up in the main story, but
Yeah.
that's not really like acknowledged here. And in general, the end of this issue is not. There are a few discrepancies with how this gets picked up in the main series. Like I thought we saw Ben die on panel in the main
No,
series.
we didn't see him die on panel. We saw his dead body on panel.
But even that, like the way it's implied here is that he's in a big explosion. And we see his mask on like a thing.
Yeah.
But I think within the main series, we see his dead body costumed in rubble.
Yeah, we don't see his head though. We just see his like body lying there in the costume he's wearing. Because remember, there's no characters in this books, just costumes.
Yep.
So that's Scarlet Spiders. That was the tie-ins that we chose to read for Spider-Verse. Like,
this is what we chose to spend our time on.
yeah, I mean, it's like this is the clone book. It's
Yeah.
the 3 clone characters, and they're dealing with the inheritors cloning process. Miles Warren shows up for one panel, but there's no like what I was really hoping was a scene where Ben and Kane actually talk, or just some acknowledgement of like more than jokes of like, hey, we're all clones. Ultimately, how do we factor into this whole spider totem crap, et cetera, et cetera? And there's really there's no substance related to clones in this.
No.
It's just
that would require competent writing.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, for completionist sake, I'm kind of glad that I did tack on this episode. But otherwise, this is definitely one of the episodes where it really has very limited relevance to the Clone Saga.
Episodes where I look at Vince and go, "Why'd you throw this on the docket?"
Yeah. I mean, it is direct. Like you said, it's directly clone related. Like,
yeah.
But I honestly am majorly upset that we get this version of Ben Reilly from the world where the Clone Saga went the way it was originally intended, or that way, and there's like zero actual fan service.
Well, and I mean, like, I don't think I'm wrong. It's the first time we've seen Ben since Revelation.
Probably. Or does he show up in Spider? Does he show up in Spider Girl?
No.
No.
I mean, the only instance would be flashbacks in those. Flashbacks in those Brand New Day stories with Raptor.
Sure, I guess. But like for the first time, really seeing Ben in like 20 years or something, this is really underwhelming.
Yep. So that's this episode, and next episode, as we get closer and closer to the very end, next 3 episodes are the Clone Conspiracy.
Hell yeah.
Because it is too fucking long. The Clone Conspiracy all together, and again, we're not covering every single tie-in because there's 5 whole issues of Prowler and Silk tie-ins and whatever else. Just the stuff we're reading, we're looking at like 300 pages.
Jesus Christ!
Oh my god!
Almost 330. So check in next time, and we'll begin climbing that mountain.
I'm excited.
I guess I am. I mean, I haven't
I'm
read
not
it.
excited. I'm
No,
not.
I am. I am excited. I've read a whole 2 or 3 issues of this book, and it's trash. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks for watching this one. Go check out Wismer Whispers and tune in next time.